that we, as particularly as men, as male-identified folks, have and grapple with during these challenging times, and how it relates to the collective socialization of manhood. You know us at A Call to Men, we talk a lot about the man box. How is that playing out for us? And the cool thing here on this call that you all know, we're going to hear from our friends Dwight Hollier and Justin Baldoni. Dwight is a longtime friend of mine. He's a mental health clinician. He's a former vice president of wellness and clinical services for the NFL, former NFL player, and he currently oversees students' athletic wellness for the University of North Carolina. Go Tar Heels. And Justin, well, everybody knows Justin. He's an actor, an activist, and what we love about him at A Call to Men more than anything else is that he's using his influence and platform to promote healthy manhood and bringing mental health resources to the masses. That's huge and really important to us. And the last thing I want to do real quick is give a shout out to Maggie Hero. She's the head of social impact, and all the rest of the team at Harry's. Harry's is committed to men's mental health, and is with their help that allows us to get on this call. So we would love for you to check them out at harrys.com. Just check out their social mission and what they're doing. All right, so let's get started. Let's open up the call and hear from a handful of folks. We need you to keep it to a minute or less. The shorter time you speak, the more folks we can get in. You see the raised hand, you can click on that. We want to hear from a few folks. How you doing? How you handling things? And what are some of the things you're doing to maintain a healthy mental health during these challenging times? So what we got, Danny?
All right, so we're going to go to Christian Lopez. Christian, I'm going to unmute you now.
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up, Tony? Thanks for having me on. Thanks for doing this, as always. I am feeling so excited and so pumped up right now because yesterday I just got off a podcast for my podcast, Behind the Masculinity, with Ted. It was an awesome conversation. We laughed. We got deep. We talked about the man box. Thank you, Anna Marie, for putting that on. That's what I've been doing for my mental health lately, is just going really hard in that podcast where I talk about men and emotions and feelings. And then other than that, growing up in Miami, Florida, being a longtime Miami Dolphins fan, it's awesome to have Dwight Hollier on here, Dolphins baby. And then my wife and I being a Jane the Virgin fan, it's awesome having Rafael, aka Justin Baldoni, on here. So just really excited for this call. So thanks for putting this on as always, guys. And I feel like such a part of the community right now. So thank you.
Man, I love you. I love your energy. You are all in, brother. I appreciate that. Who else we got, Danny?
All right, so next we're going to go to Paul Samard. Paul, I'm going to unmute you now.
Hey, great. Thanks so much. Hard to follow up that level of energy, but checking in from Montreal, Canada. And I think for me, this has just been a really inspiring time because I've seen so many men coming forward and wanting to get out of there, as you love to call it, the man box, and just really being open and ready to connect. And it's opened up something further in me and the importance for this kind of work to continue. So super grateful to be here and just, loving the energy that's happening in this time. I've said that the virus isn't a virus, it's a medicine. We just have to pay attention and accept it and welcome it as such. So thank you for having this call today.
Thank you. Thank you. And remember, folks, we want to hear how you're doing, so how you're managing. And if you're male identified, you can connect that back to male socialization and the things that we've been taught that it means to be a man, because the truth of the matter is these times require us to really flip that around, to get out of that man box, to be able to talk about what's happening, identify our fears, our anxieties, ask for help, all the things that collectively we've been taught not to do. So let's hear how you're managing, how you're working outside that box and making it happen. Who we got, Danielle?
All right, we're going to go to Jonathan.
Hi, Tony. I'm really glad to be on this call. It's Jonathan. I'm from New York City. I think this time it's been stressful. I think some of the isolation and it's challenged me. You know, I've you know, doing men's engagement and talking to other men about, you know, not isolating and being vulnerable. It's one thing to talk to other people about it. It's another thing to have to apply that for yourself. And so, you know, I started doing virtual counseling, and I think that was a big thing for me. It's funny, like, you know, being the person to always say, yes, you know, men need to be open up and go to counseling, and then having to admit that for myself, like, oh, I need to go to counseling, and I need to kind of figure out what support I need in this time of my life.
Appreciate you sharing that and putting it out there. I believe many of us are thinking about it and on the fence, while of course folks like yourself are, but I think a lot of that being on the fence is clearly connected to male socialization, you know, the whole notion of being vulnerable, you know, and really understanding that there's strength in vulnerability, and vulnerability is where we take what we might identify as a risk. And I appreciate you doing that, and your transparency helps other men, male identified folks, to say, you know, maybe I should just go in and get in there. I've been thinking about it. Jonathan talked about it. Maybe I need to get in there. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
We have time for one or maybe two more, Danielle.
All right, let's go to Raul Castillo.
Make the last person a female identified person, please. All right, Raul.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be on today's call. It's my first time. Found out about this meeting through some of the partners that we work with here in New Jersey. We've been doing a lot of work on the prevention of child abuse and neglect, but also talking to fathers and dads about that. And one thing in regards to mental health that I've learned recently, especially, is while we're in this rat race of life, right, trying to help as many people as we can, self-care is what's most important, right? You've got to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. That way we're able to successfully help others. So thank you so much for allowing this call today, and self-care, that's been my thing lately.
I appreciate that. Thank you for putting it. And if you think about men and the man box and socialization, you know, many men on this call, we're a little more woke, a little more conscious about these issues. But you just talk to everyday cat, and you mention self-care, you kind of look at you twisted, like, self-care? Like, what the hell are you talking about self-care? I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing just because of the irony of it, right? That is sad that collectively as men, you know, women, female identified folks talk about self-care all the time, right? But it's really, really important for we as men, as male identified people, to begin to really talk about self-care, identify it, speak to it, teach to it. Appreciate you putting it into space, brother. We're gonna hear from one more person, Danielle.
Yes, let's go to Ariana. And Ariana, you should be unmuted now.
Okay. Hi, I'm calling in from DC. I recently just left right before the borders closed my home in India, and I'm really relating to what Jonathan said. I grew up in a really hyper masculine culture of kind of being very disembodied, and in the last many years been teaching social and emotional learning. But in this time, like, I've really been struggling with kind of letting myself embody the emotions and let myself go on a roller coaster of just letting my body kind of be in touch with grief and grieve, and then let myself go into joy and find humor, but kind of let my, you know, emotions go, but also let myself dance it out or kind of shake it out or sing it out, but let, you know, me not get trapped kind of in the mental aspect of it. And I also kind of, I'm noticing, because I'm separated from my partner who's joined us on this call from India, but to also, I'm here alone. So to kind of touch myself lovingly and sensually, and finding that, like, I really need kind of to be my own, like, hugger in this time, because my body is going through a deficit of kind of love and tenderness that needs to be kind of physically embodied too, and not just kind of mentally cared for in that way.
No, I appreciate that. You say your partner's on the call as well?
Yeah, Sankalp, he's the guy from India, so.
Oh yeah? All right, hey Danny, Let's hear from Sankar. Let's see how he's doing in India. If you don't mind, I'm gonna just pull a couple extra minutes from somewhere.
Yeah, let's see. I'm trying to find him here. Hang on just a minute. Oh, here we go.
You're unmuted, Sankar.
Perfect.
Hi. Yeah, I really resonate with what Ani said. The distance has been troubling, but at this point, we're also sort of looking at taking this time to really write about and renew our relationship. Like, we're currently working on an article that we've been wanting to work on for a while on really renewing our relationship as human beings to our own emotionality. And I'm really taking this time to unpack for myself as a man, what does it mean to be able to sort of fully grasp the my inner world of emotions and sort of be comfortable with it and talk about it and share. So we miss each other, but we're also sort of collaborating and finding time.
Thank you. Thank you. That's beautiful. Really appreciate you being here with us. I've had the pleasure to travel to India a few times, and it's special. I have special memories, and thank you. Appreciate you being here. All right. So today, again, we want to talk specifically about men's mental health in time of crises. All right. And also, I recently outlined my thoughts on male-identified people, how we're being impacted during these challenging times. I encourage you to check out what I wrote. You can find it on our homepage at calltomen.org. Please check that out when you have a chance. All right, so Dwight Hollier is going to kick off the conversation and share with us men's health and how it's being affected right now, how the collective socialization of manhood is playing a role in all of that, and what we can do, as so many of you have already spoke about, to be healthier men. All right, let's go to Dwight.
Hey, thank you, Tony. It's an amazing opportunity to be here with a wonderful group of people. All of you on the call. Justin, thank you for being here. Tony, you and your amazing team. It's always good. It's always a blessing to be in the space where people are loving and caring for one another in this way. You know, having the opportunity to share with you during this unique time is special. All of the suggestions and mandates and stipulations that we have so far have told us to practice social distancing, which is really physical distancing. And for some, that means isolation. It cuts us off from the things that keep us grounded, like work, like friends, like family. You know, I have a 74-year-old mother who has leukemia, has had a blood transfusion recently. And that's where my heart is, and why I'm praying that we continue to do what we need to do to make sure that we're taking care of one another, so that I can one day get back to hugging my mom. I know she misses it, and I certainly feel cut off from her. You know, and I'm reading and hearing about higher levels of stress and anxiety during this time. And for some, that can be paralyzing, making it difficult to do anything. And men are not exempt from this stress. You know, more than 6 million men suffer from depression each year, but men are rarely diagnosed with depression, or it goes undiagnosed. Men are more likely to express that they're tired or stressed or bored, rather than admit that they're really sad and feel worthless. Mm-hmm. Male suicide has been on the rise since 2000, and 3.5 times higher for men to die by suicide than women. It's epidemic. And when you think about those numbers, they go up for the LGBTQ, trans, and gender nonconforming community. And so it's important for us to pay attention. I know my own stress and anxiety has been higher lately. And when you grow up like I grew up, where you constantly heard, suck it up, get back in there, push through, and don't you dare think about crying. Mm-hmm. Man, that's when that becomes your way of operating in the world, and it makes it much more difficult and challenging for those of us who have been socialized like this to speak up and reach out for support particularly when you can't see and have trouble describing the pain. You know, it's important that I say this early on in this discussion because, and it really goes along with what Jonathan shared and what Ariana shared, is, you know, we have to, again, I just want to say this, and I don't want it to be missed. It is okay for men to reach out for help, for assistance, when they're struggling with depression, anxiety, or other mental health issues. You know, it is a sign of strength to recognize when you are not strong and then take steps to get the help that you need. So I want to make sure that I say that and say that clearly, that it is okay to reach out for help when you need it. It is a sign of strength to speak up when you are not feeling strong, and certainly encourage you all to do that. You know, I've worked a lot around athletes, and when we have conversations with athletes, we challenge them to be their best in difficult times. And that includes when they're struggling emotionally and we know that they can't be. And then it becomes a conversation. Well, what would you do if your ankle was hurt? Well, I go talk to a trainer. Well, what would you do if you were struggling spiritually? Well, I'll talk to the chaplain, or I'll go to our faith leader. What happens if your money is funny? Well, I'll talk to somebody about that. But they don't have words for what happens when they are struggling emotionally. Men in particular have a history of staying silent when we're struggling emotionally. And we know we can't be the best that we can be in that moment. And it's important that we recognize that if we want to be fully well, then it's important to address our mental and emotional health as much as we do our physical health. Mental health is health. There are a number of resources, Tony, that I want to make sure that we share. And really, I've learned from you about, you know, ask for help when you need it. And I've heard you say this, accept help when it's offered, and offer help when you think someone else could use it. And anyone can get free mental health counseling services by calling the COVID-19 emotional support hotline. That number is 1-800-863-9314. I'm sorry, 1-844-863-9314. I'll say it one more time, 844-863-9314. Additionally, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number is 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. And that is always available, and it's for anyone feeling distressed, not just suicidal. And then there's the crisis talk line, and that is you text 741-741. And again, some other resources that are available to you. Mental Health, Mental Health America has some great information on their website. You can go to mhanational.org, and they have some self-help tools, including screenings that allow for anonymous and free support, help you to gauge your mental health and where you are. I certainly encourage you to do that. It is important. It is so important, and this is to Raul's point, is that we put the mask on ourselves first. You know, let's make sure that we're taking care of our mental health, our physical and emotional health, so that we can help others during this challenging time. You know, if there's a couple of more minutes, Tony, there's a couple of suggestions I'd like to make regarding how to take care of yourselves.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so just a couple of things that I encourage you to do. And these are things that I'm practicing right now to help take care of my own mental health. And one is about keeping routines. You know, I try to maintain a routine that reflects my normal day. I get up in the morning in the way that I have. I am working from home, and I do spend time in that work mode, but it's important that you also make breaks for yourself and take breaks. Find some way to get some regular activity. We know that exercise and mindfulness activities help mitigate depression and anxiety. So it's important that we do things to take care of our mental and emotional health. And then lastly, I'll share, avoid watching, reading, and listening to the news. You know, that can cause you to feel anxious or distressed. And you know, seek out information in a way that's supportive of you, where you get highlights versus staring at a TV in a space for a long time. Again, it's about taking care of your mental and emotional health. And then I'll just say, find an accountability partner, someone who can hold you accountable, keep you engaged, whether it's, working out or just staying connected to your friends. Anything you can do to support yourself and your own mental health is really important during times like this. I'll turn it back over to you, Tony.
Yes, my brother. Thank you. Beautifully said. We so appreciate you, man. So appreciate all your insight. Please stick around because we're gonna have some Q&A after we hear from my buddy Justin, and I'm sure folks have some questions they want to throw out at you. Yeah, so we're blessed today to also have Justin Baldoni joining us. He's been a friend of ours for quite some time here at A Call to Men. And what I love about him, like I said earlier, is the way he uses his influence and platform. Right now on Instagram, he has a huge presence right now, speaking a lot about issues of mental health and well-being with, almost 3 million followers. So when we heard about that and was checking in on him, we said, come on, Justin, spend some time with us, and he graciously accepted. So let's bring Justin up on the screen, and I got a few questions I want to throw out, and we'll do it more interview style.
What's up, man? Listen, when Tony Porter and Ted Bunch ask you to do something, you do it. That's for darn sure. How's it going?
Well,
I love you guys so much. I so appreciate all the work that you do in this space. And, I started as a fan with you guys, Tony, before. Like your TED Talk, man. I remember listening to that and just being blown away by you modeling vulnerability. And it really affected me and touched me. And it also showed me in a completely different world than the world I was raised in, and how masculinity affects us all differently. So I appreciate you and Ted. We've had some good chats over the years, and you guys, I'm grateful that you're doing this work. And for everybody on this call, like, this touches me deeply to see all these faces and all these men and women and people that everybody, like all of you, people that don't identify as men or women, everybody on this call. I was just watching and listening to you as everybody was talking, and I was finding myself getting emotional because like, this is the work. Like, this is the real work. Like, to show up for this Zoom call right now when there's so many other things that could distract us. And this is what matters. Like, this is the emotional and the spiritual gym. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you, man. Love you, brother. So what are some of the things that you're doing right now to cope with the physical isolation, distancing? How you handling things?
I'll be honest. I started this whole quarantine thing off, and because I'm someone that travels a lot. Like, I'm always gone. I'm making movies, and I'm in and out of the house all day long. And I was at first like really excited. I'm like, oh, we get to stay home. And I gotta say, the first week or so, I got a little cocky because I'm like, I was made to be in quarantine. Like, I'm good. Like, I was feeling good. I was flying high. I was like, all right, I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna like get myself in shape, and like I'm gonna be with my kids, and I'm gonna work. I'm gonna do all these things, and then I crashed really hard. And I wasn't paying attention to all the things that I was actually feeling underneath the like superficial aspects of what this quarantine really was for us. The reality of what was happening in the world, the reality of the fact that my parents live not even 10 minutes away, and I wasn't able to see them or touch them, and we were having to separate from them. My sister living 5 minutes away, and she's not able to come over. The reality of what's happening to so many people. I found out a friend of mine had COVID-19, and he's 38, and he was in a coma on a ventilator for 6 days. All of these things were not really entering my psyche. I was just like, got to finish my book because my book's due to the publisher on Thursday. I got to finish my movie because that's due. I got to we're building. And as men, we can so often distract ourselves with all of the things we're told we have to be as men, right? The protectors, the providers, like the people that are emotionally stable, the rock of the house. And I found myself, doesn't matter. And I'm sure Ted and Tony, you guys can speak to this, but it doesn't matter how many conversations you have, how many books you write, how many articles or op-eds you write. Doesn't matter how woke somebody thinks you are. Every single one of us who identify as men fall right back into the same ways that we've been socialized our entire lives. It's like a rubber band. And I found myself there without even realizing it. It's like the knight in rusty armor. It's like, I love that little book. Just realizing I couldn't even see myself through my armor. And I crashed and I crashed. And it was really a beautiful thing, because I looked at my wife and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I lethargic and tired and irritable and emotional? And I wasn't checking in with myself. And so I was grateful for the crash. There's a quote in the Baha'i writing where he talks about how man sees himself unfit, or sees himself fit until we get tested. Mm-hmm. And it's these tests that continue to come in greater degrees until our former weaknesses become strengths. And so I was grateful for these tests, because I was able to see, oh man, I'm falling right back into the same stuff that I was doing my whole life, that I've always been doing. And the breakdown. And then I reached out to a few of my boys, which luckily I've trained myself to do. And it's so funny, I had this text thread going, and they all started responding, and I just started crying. And I was like, why am I crying? Where is this even coming from? And it was because just seeing these other friends of mine, these other men, being willing to say, yo, I need to talk, or let's get on a Zoom tonight. And everyone was like, yes, I'm in. And just that was like, oh, I'm not alone. Just that. And so, yeah, so I've been doing good. And then sorry for the, I just went off on a long tangent.
That's all right. No, that's all right.
One thing.
You answered about 5 of them though, so that's all good. Go ahead.
But specifically, I'll tell you, man, one thing that's been really helpful for me, and I saw someone comment, and I've been talking about it a lot, has been cold therapy, cold showers. And that is something that's been really strangely helpful. And I'm somebody that's always hated the cold, but also as a man, I like challenges. And this, because my brain can wander, and it's hard for me to sometimes bring everything into like a super calm, meditative place. Like, I'm not the dude that's going to go sit on a chair and meditate for an hour and a half. That's not me. Cold has forced me to get into my body and my breath and quiet my mind. I don't want to do it, but making myself do it falls in line with the principles of what I've been working on, what you're working on, which is learning how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. So much of the ways that we have been socialized, in order to break these scripts and these chains, we have to learn to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Calling and telling another guy that you need help is a huge source of discomfort. So just the simple act of making myself every single day get into a cold shower, it's like, why would I ever want to get in a cold shower? But making myself do it has been a workout for my mind, and has helped me so much, because I get in, I feel the cold water. I take stock of my body. I feel how it's touching all these areas. I don't want it to touch my armpits or other parts, and I just make it go there, and I breathe. And I will tell you that it has been the most revolutionary form of quick therapy that I've ever done. Making myself get in that ice cold shower or a cold plunge. It sounds wild and crazy, but I swear to you, it's helped. It releases chemicals and endorphins in our brain and our mind that is similar to working out. And I have a smile on my face when I get out of there. And so that's something that's been very, very helpful for me.
That's cool. So I got one last question for you. Well, it's 2 questions. I'll throw them in together on one, because we're short of time and respect. I want to get a couple of questions in from the folks. So why do you feel it's important for those of us who identify as men to have these kind of conversations in a public way, and couple that with, and then how are you, I may mention that you're using your influence and platform. Talk a little bit about how you're doing that.
Well, the whole reason I even started making my personal journey to, and I'm calling it undefine my masculinity, public, was because I never saw it modeled. And I think that those of us who identify as men, we learn from other men. we follow other men. We imitate other men. We want to be like other men. And if we're not seeing these conversations and these things modeled and demonstrated, if we're not seeing other men be vulnerable or ask for help or talk about the things that we're talking about, then how do we expect anybody to learn? You know, in my faith, we're told the essence of faith is an abundance of deeds and a fewness of words. It's one thing to talk about stuff. It's another thing to do. And we're doers. Like in the do, it's all in the doing. So for me, it's so important because if we're not talking about it, we're not actually doing it, then how could we ever expect anything to change? We could write all the books we want. We can do all the TED Talks we want. We can do all these things we want, but if we're not actually on the ground doing the work, then how are we going to expect the next generation to show up differently than we did? How do we expect domestic violence and sexual abuse to go down if we're not modeling it for the next generation? So that's one side. I think we need modeling. The other thing for me is what I've been doing with my platform is, I haven't been going like live on Instagram with a bunch of other celebrities, and look, we're all creative. Like celebrities are really creative and everybody can, find ways to boost their followings and like combine audiences and stuff. But I've been really trying to figure out how to use my platform to just simply help. And that sometimes is a hard choice because it means that it's not going to be the sexy stuff that everybody wants to watch. But for those that want to watch it, it's going to be more important and meaningful. And if we can affect and change one life or two or three or four or five, it doesn't matter that that a million people watched it. It matters that 5 people watched it. So each night I decided to go live on my Instagram because I know that when I'm the most depressed or when I've had the most anxiety, whether it be from work problems or relationship problems in my single days when I was cheated on, whatever it was at night. And I would always struggle at night, and that would be the hardest. And so I'm going on and I'm talking about different breathing methods, and I'm just meeting my fans and followers and people that are on this call, and I want to hear their stories. And we're sharing, and what we found was that we're building a community of people that are looking forward to just being with each other. And because that's what we're lacking is community. Instagram is not really community. Instagram is a bunch of people comparing themselves and for the most part, like comparing quarantine. Whose is better? What are we doing? We need people to talk and share their heart and their feelings. And the best thing that I found from this is the people that I've been meeting are the ones that are actually making the difference in the lives of everybody else that are watching. It's not me. I've had 5 or 6 people in the last week, in the last 3 weeks, write saying they were going to take their life. Save it not for tuning into the lives and seeing the community and hearing that they were not alone and hearing that other people were struggling and hearing that other people were suffering. And this is the biggest myth, not just of masculinity, but of the world, which is if we don't share our pain, then how can we expect anyone else to share theirs? And we all think we're alone in our pain. So the myth of masculinity is that we have to do it alone, right? So the whole idea is how do you build community? And that's just, so that's what we're doing. We're going live. We're letting people know they're not alone, that they're okay, that we're going to get through this, that they are valued, and that they are enough.
I appreciate you, man. Appreciate you so much. This has been beautiful. So we have about 10, 12 minutes or so for Q&A. So I'm ask a few things. I'm gonna ask folks who are asking the questions, ask the question, right? I'm gonna ask Dwight and Justin to be brief with their responses. And then maybe we can get 5, 6 questions in. All right, we cool? We good? All right, I'm gonna turn, Justin, I love you, brother. I appreciate you so much. And by the way, Justin has a beautiful TED Talk out there. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. All right, Danny, who we have there?
Yes, so let's start with Alexis Wiggins, and I'm gonna unmute you now, Alexis.
Great, thank you. Thanks to Dwight and Justin. I use Justin's TED Talk in my high school English classes when we talk about all kinds of stories and masculinity, and that's really cool. And I want to kind of ask a question related to young people for both Dwight and Justin. As a mom of 2 boys, 10 and 12, What do we mothers do, fathers as well, to raise healthy boys? You talk about the way you grew up. How do we do things differently? What do you recommend as men that we women may not know or understand?
Dwight, go ahead, bud.
Dwight, you want to talk a minute about that, please?
Well, I can talk about things that I do with my son, and part of it is just about correcting the ways that I was taught. There were things that were said to me, and that I try to change in my son, in talking about how he addresses women and the way he carries himself. So it's just about teaching them that it's okay. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to hurt. You don't have to suck it up. You don't have to brush it off. And just letting them know that I'm in my head because I'm thinking about some other things. I'm actually challenging my son right now to be more resilient, and so some of this butts up against that idea of the old way of socialization and new way. But I think it's just about how you communicate and reinforcing the type of young man that you want to be. I think my son listens to my wife much more than he does me, and so just reinforcing those healthy man ideas is I think a very important thing, first step in doing that.
Thank you, Dwight. And please visit our website. We got so much stuff on there that relates to this issue about raising boys. We have our Live Respect curriculum on coaching healthy, respectful manhood. There's a ton of information there. A couple community conversations forward. We're going to have one specific to raising children, particularly boys. So please make sure you tune in for that. Let's get another question.
Tony, real quick, I just want to say one thing. It'll
Go
take
ahead.
30 seconds. Something that I've been doing, and I don't know how old your boys are, but for me, my son's 2. And what I'm trying to teach him as a 2-year-old is that the heart is the strongest muscle in his body. So we have this saying every night where he says, the strongest muscle in my body is my heart. I love my body. I love my mind. I love my heart. I love my soul. I love God. I love myself, and I'm enough. And I'm just having him repeat it every single night like a mantra. And this idea that our heart, no matter, because as men, eventually he's going to want big muscles, like his daddy. And then I have to remind him that, no, it's your heart. And then also showing him when I cry that it's okay to cry. And that sometimes you cry when you're happy, and sometimes you cry when you're sad, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
So those are just a couple things that I've been doing.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And folks, please, in the chat space, throw up some suggestions. Many of you out there, we got a whole bunch of folks on this call. So if you're working with young boys and you have some suggestions, please throw it up in the chat space. What do you have, Daniel?
Yeah, so Tony, we have 2 questions on Facebook from Sarah and Lana that are both very much in the same vein. And the question really is for women, how do we start conversations with the men in our lives about sharing emotions and letting them know that they're not less of a man for doing so?
So that's the question women are asking each other. Am I correct?
Women are asking each other, but women are also asking the men in this space as well.
Say it again, please.
So as a woman, how can I speak to the men in my life, significant others, father, brother, friends, and let them know that it's okay to share their emotions without making them feel like they are less of a man for doing so?
Okay. Justin, you have thoughts about that?
I have a lot of thoughts about that. And most of them come from hearing from men and having direct conversations with women. And I think that the only thing that I would say, and it's a tricky thing to talk about because both men and women have been socialized in their own ways to want a certain thing from men. And, but the men that have reached out to me, and I don't know, Tony, if you've had this, have reached out saying, I don't know how to be vulnerable, because when I show up vulnerable, then I don't come off like a man, and I push them away. And so my only thing that I would say to women who are very interested in their men being more open is that in the event there is a moment when your man does open up, to make sure you resist your socialization, whatever that looks like, and provide an open space for him, and let him know that almost, it sounds terrible, almost like how you would praise a dog for doing something good. You need to find a way, in whatever it is for that man in your relationship, to award him in a strange way and let him know that what he's doing is beautiful and that you appreciate it. And that's like the beginning of it, because it starts with action. It starts with letting him know that he can talk about it, but the way we react is the key. The way we react to him crying is the key. You know, I have a lot of dear friends who are women that have found in their own personal journeys of socialization, have realized that they were also socialized to be repelled by men that are emotional, and that they're now working on it. Our work is with the men, so we just have to keep reminding men that, like, it doesn't matter how somebody responds to you. Your work is to open up and share your heart and make that journey from your head to your heart. It doesn't matter if they respond negatively or poorly. It's about you. So that's all I got.
I love that. I love that. Dwight, you want to touch on that, or should I go to the next question?
No, I think that was beautifully said.
Right.
I don't have much to add to that.
All right. And it was very well said. I loved it. Another question, Dan?
Yes, Jonathan Wong.
Hi, everyone. Thank you again, Tony, Dwight, Justin, everyone, for your input and suggestions. It's great. I want to keep this short. So I'm doing a project right now for my last semester in school. I'm going to graduate in a week. It's on toxic masculinity, and specifically I've been focusing on sports and youth athletics. And everyone I've talked to, all former athletes, have been friends of mine. So the conversations have been relatively safe. But I know at some point, because I'm going to start having talks and I want to put out like a podcast, I know at some point I'm going to get pushback from men. And I know men respond differently to this when they feel attacked. So I just want to know, what's the best way to deal with when I'm going to get that first pushback, when I'm going to get that first, like, you're wrong, like you're looking at this wrong, like you anti-masculine, you know, I just want to know, you know, what's the best way to deal with pushback?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And you will get the pushback. If there was no pushback, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. So you got to, like, put your arms around the pushback and say, hey, where you been all my life? I've been waiting on you. You know, you got to expect it. Right? You got to expect it. It's real. All right. Dwight, I'm going to come to you first. You're the pro football player. What's your thoughts about what Jonathan is asking?
I say, yeah, you're going to get that pushback. Just be ready to, as Tony, you mentioned, just be ready to address it and address it straightforward. You know, Tony has said this a million times, and I've certainly leaned on him. You know, just giving an example of how the impact that coaches and leaders of boys in that space can have on young men, and the idea of a group of young men around you on a knee, looking up at you, leaning on your every word, ready to do whatever you say do, even more so than your parents would you do for your parents. There's a lot of power in that, and just helping them to understand that power and the influence that they carry, and the potential for change through that vehicle that they are as coaches. I don't know how to impress upon them how important that is. And if you can get them to see that part of them, their influence, I think you can get through to them. You help them to understand how much power they carry, and how the words that they say can really make a difference in an entire generation of young people.
Yeah.
I think that that's one way to try to get through to them.
Right. Appreciate that. Hey, Justin, I'm give you an opportunity here, brother, for a last shout out before we have to move forward the agenda.
Yeah.
With the
So
question or anything.
yeah, well, you know, it's a little controversial. My feeling about this is, look, I got slammed from my TED Talk, and Tony, I'm sure you did as well. At one point, my TED Talk was shared on Facebook, and it had 50 million shares or views or something, and there was just endless comments from men about how I was, you know, can't even say some of these things. And what I learned, and when I did my research, is, you know, I think we have to be mindful of language, and because language has been politicized. And this work is not inherently political. This is not a liberal or a conservative conversation, right? This is a human conversation, right? Speaking to a call to men, we're trying to end violence against women at the hands of men. My work is with men, and I am being very mindful of the words that I use, seeing like, well, you know what, if a large percentage of men feel that toxic masculinity, when I use that word, they feel attacked, well, then maybe I won't use that word. And there's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, I'm trying to reach the men that feel repelled by that phrase. So I'm okay changing my language, because I don't have any, I'm not a conservative and I'm not a liberal. I'm just a dude, and I'm sharing my experience as a guy because I want to help other men. So what I would offer you, man, is one, be prepared for the blowback. Know that it's not about you, no matter what they say. You know, you're going to have your 8-year-old self come up, and you're going to feel like you're being bullied again, and that shit's going to pop up right from your solar plex, and you're going to have some anxiety around it when you feel men attacking you, and know that it's not about you, and that generally they are feeling attacked, and that's why they are lashing out. It's the same thing we've been experiencing of the policing, of the socialization of men forever. And just be mindful of your language. And that's the only thing I would say. That's why I don't say toxic masculinity, only because not all masculinity is toxic. There's parts of masculinity that all of us love, and it's not just someone who identifies as a man or identifies, it's for all of us. So just be mindful, be inclusive in your language, and as you're writing about it, don't attack, but come at it with love. And as Ted and Tony say, don't call men out, call men in. It's much harder to attack somebody when you're being called in. It's much easier to attack somebody when you're being called out.
All right. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Jonathan, check it out, man. Email me through our inbox on our website, and you and I can jump on the call and kick it and talk some more, right? I look forward to checking in with you. This has been real beautiful for me. I appreciate you so much, Dwight. Justin, love you both, brothers. I'm gonna pass it on to Anna Marie. She's gonna share some things with you as we move toward closing.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Justin and Dwight. I appreciate y'all so much. So want to let y'all know that our next call is May 13th at 1 Eastern. We are thrilled to share that, and before we've announced it to the public, that we'll be talking about how COVID-19 is affecting communities of color and how to deal with grief and foster resilience. And we have Super Bowl champ and 3-time Pro Bowler Michael Bennett coming on with us to talk about how the crisis is affecting the Black community. And he'll be supported by 2 of our trainers, Kalima Johnson and Joseph Maldonado. So you can sign up for that call and the additional calls on May 27th, June 10, and June 24 at acalltomen.org. We want you to come back and continue this conversation in our Healthy Manhood Facebook group. You can find the link to that in the chat right now. We encourage you to go there. We're going to ask you to keep contributing to this conversation and talk about how we can intentionally model healthy manhood around mental health issues during this time. And in fact, you can find us always on our social channels. We're talking about this and so many other things on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at A Call to Men. And I certainly encourage you to follow Justin if you're not already, and Dwight, and join their communities and the communities that they're building on their social channels as well. For any of our partners on the line today, we want you to know that we know that things have shifted in a very serious way, and we have pivoted and are offering all of our training, whether it's hour-long keynotes, multi-day institutes. We're doing them all virtual right now to meet the needs of your organization. So we encourage you to reach out to us. if you want to talk about what that could look like and how we can support your efforts. Finally, our virtual institute in May is completely sold out. Thank y'all for rallying around that and getting registered. We were quick to jump and add more dates. You can join us June 2nd and 3rd, and you can RSVP. Actually, you can register for that on acalltomen.org on the homepage as well. So we hope to see you in all those spaces. And I'm going to turn it over to Lena since we're close on time. Lena Huarbe-Botea is going to offer last words in the tradition of A Call to Men, opening and closing the call, hearing from the voices of women. Lena's going to offer last words and do a call for goodbyes from everyone. So Lena, take it away.
Thank you, Anna Marie. Thank you, everybody. I have been hypnotized by the gallery view and seeing you all. We have created community in a beautiful virtual way. I want to just elevate a couple of things and let you all go with tremendous amounts of love. Let's create routine. I love what you talked about, Dwight. Routine of loving ourselves and sharing love for others. How do we really continue to bring love and accountability at the same time? And how do we do that in a way that brings our humanity in the process? We must remember that we must be accountable to those that reside in the margins of the margins, those people that are most impacted. And remember that modeling the healthy masculinity is an action. It's how we be in community. And as we come to a close, just a reminder that community is healing and healing is community. We must all seek help, offer help in our communities, in our families. And lastly, we appreciate you all for all you do every single day for your families and communities. We are incomplete without any of you. And we are the people that are creating the future that we need. The most radical act that we can do right now is self-care and holding each other tight. We absolutely love you and adore you from A Call to Men. And please, if we can absolutely unmute everyone and say a crazy hello and goodbye and love for everybody, Danny. We would love to do that. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. They'll be like, why are you there? Bye. See you soon.